So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for Leadership Northern Colorado. My name is Amanda Miller and I help support the program in the steering committee. We want to thank everyone today for taking their time and joining us for our Leadership Moment interview with Nathan Klein. I'm thrilled to see you all here today. And for those joining us watching the recording, thanks for tuning in and checking out this interview. I will do a quick screen share. We want to always recognize and thank our sponsors. So thank you to Elevations Credit Union for supporting Leadership Northern Colorado throughout the year, and specifically these Leadership Moment interviews. We sure appreciate their support. Also want to remind everyone, if you can, please stay on mute during the duration of the interview. If you have questions, drop those into the chat. We will be sure to save a few minutes at the end of the interview to address any questions that you might have for Nathan. Also want to remind you to mark your calendar. We are continuing this series through the end of the year. So we will meet with you the second Tuesday of every month for a great conversation with one of our regional leaders. So again, second Tuesday at 3:30. Our next session will fall on June 14th. We'll welcome Rochelle Mitchell-Miller. Rochelle is with Connections for Independent Living. So she will be our guest in June. And then scheduled for July 12th, we have Carrie Rossman, who is a Leadership Northern Colorado alumni from the YMCA of the Rockies of Estes Park. So look forward to seeing you all throughout the summer as well. I will turn it over to Todd Carl, and Todd will introduce Nathan and kick us off here with our session.
Awesome. Amanda, thank you so much. And Nathan, thank you for joining us today. We've those of us that have been lucky enough to hear you present in Leadership Northern Colorado sessions know that you know real estate inside and out, and that's great. Today, we're super excited to get your sort of personal perspectives on leadership. So why don't we start off? First off, super important question. Nate, Nathan, old school, like Nathaniel. What should I call you?
Nate or Nathan is great. Nathaniel is only what my daughter's friends call me, you know, to be funny. So, but my formal name is just Nathan, but Nate or Nathan is fine.
I don't want to steal your daughter's friend's thunder, so
right,
I guess
right.
Nate it is. Very good. Nate, why don't you take 3 minutes and share with us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Nathan Klein. I am a senior partner and commercial brokerage manager at LC Real Estate Group. So we're based here in Loveland. And so, you know, what I do is for the most part, I spend about 75 or 80% of my time doing commercial real estate brokerage. The other 20% or 25% or so of my time is spent managing a small brokerage team here at LC Real Estate Group, and then also working on commercial property acquisitions and property management. So we've got a relatively sizable commercial real estate portfolio, mostly centered in Northern Colorado. And so I help with a lot of the lease administration and those kinds of things related to that, in addition to the brokerage business.
It's awesome, man. And you're a native to this area too, aren't you?
Yeah, I grew up in Eastern Colorado. So I actually grew up on a farm out in Yuma, and came up to CSU and got my degree in finance and real estate at CSU in 2004. And I joined this company originally as an intern during my last semester of college, and then was offered a position, and then ultimately became a partner in the company in 2006.
Always good to see CSU alums stay home and have success. So that's amazing. Can you share with us what your top priorities are for yourself and your business this year and maybe short term?
Yeah, great. So I'll start with the business side, and certainly happy to talk on the more personal side too. I would say this year is really focused on building my team. I've got 3 young brokers here still learning, working to find their way. That a good portion of my energy is put forth into helping build their success and sustain their success. One of the things that I did about 3 years ago, I restructured my business such that everything that I do has a partner. And I did that mostly because I also coach relentlessly with my kids. So I'm helping coach a 16U club basketball team right now, and coaching a 13U travel baseball team right now. So I spend a lot of time there, and I've prioritized that. And so one of my biggest stressors in life and related to the brokerage business is unreturned phone calls. So by having a partner in everything that I do, if I'm at a basketball game or a baseball tournament or whatever, and somebody inquires about a property and I can't handle it, I just forward the voicemail to my partner and they handle it for me. So, it was giving up some of my business to do that, but I found that I've just gotten so much, back in spades with the time I can spend with my family and be present at all those events. So that would be number one. Number two, our commercial investments. We're always looking to grow our investment portfolio. It's a really challenging market to find deals worth buying in our estimation, and like we like to buy, and so that's always a priority. And then we're also because the development market is so crazy right now, we're continuing to build our land and water brokerage business, and that's become a big focus with my partner Wayne Lewis and I doing a lot more of that within the region.
You are a busy guy, man. You are a manager and a part-time coach and a part-time developer. It's pretty amazing. I don't know how you have enough hours in the day. When you think about your work, and you can answer this however you like, how do you think your work impacts the future of the Northern Colorado region?
Yeah, and I love this question. So the way that I like to answer this question relates back to my family too. So, when I think about, looking back on my career and the legacy I want to leave behind, for me, it really boils down to trying to create an environment in which my kids, when they go to college and they get their degree and they decide what they want to do, that they would be able to do that here. That they wouldn't feel like, I've got to go to the Silicon Valley to be in tech, or I got to go to New York to be in the financial world, or I've got to go whatever, that we would have a diverse enough business climate and a strong enough, economy here that they could come back and be part of this community if they so chose. They may not want to live here, but that to me is what success looks like. And so, I would say, from a business perspective, having a thriving environment. I love working with small businesses in particular in the brokerage world. There's a lot of ways to run commercial brokerage, but for me, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing a company go from, 3 employees in their first office space to 10 employees and expanding to, Nathan, let's go buy a space, to, let's buy our first investment property, or whatever it might look like. And I'm getting in long enough in the industry now that I've got a lot of people that grew up with me, and it's just really cool to see them thriving in this environment as well. So I think that to me is the most rewarding part of building the region and building that economic base.
It's awesome, man. I love that, thinking about creating an environment where your kids can stay and thrive, and just creating an environment where everyone thrives. And I guess that kind of leads into the next question here. When you think about creating that environment, and as a leader in the local real estate market, are there any trends that you see in the local real estate market that concern you, that make you think that maybe we're not building that environment for the future like you hope?
Yeah, I think the macroeconomic things are probably a bigger threat than the microeconomic ones from my perspective. I think that I think we actually have a lot of what I want. It's why I'm here too. I love, we have a great quality of life. We do have a very diverse business climate, and I think it's why we've fared so well. Even in 2007, 8, 9, when the world was struggling, we were at worst flat here, and we were diverse enough to have oil and gas when manufacturing was struggling or construction was struggling. And then that, the oil and gas dried up, so to speak, and construction was booming, and we have tech, but we're not tech, and we have manufacturing, but we're not manufacturing. We're not the Rust Belt, we're not Silicon Valley. We have all those things here. And so I think that's pretty extraordinary. But the biggest threats I see from a real estate perspective is, number one is inflation. it affects everything that we do all the way through. And I think one of the hardest things for a lot of non-real estate people, forget about the impact of real estate taxes and, inflation on real estate values and how that impacts business owners, because ultimately those expenses flow back down to the business owners. So certainly inflation and what that does to operating costs on buildings. Even labor rates for snow removal guys or things along those lines. The second piece of that, which relates and is interest rates. Just in the last 60, 90 days, we have seen just, the Fed is obviously trying to hedge inflation. So these two things relate to one another. And so the cost of doing business has gone up substantially in a very short period of time. And it'll be interesting to see how it affects both the residential and the commercial industries differently. I think, on the residential side, it'll probably have a negative impact on resale market. There'll be people that'll be reluctant to sell and buy in at lower or at higher interest rates, which probably benefits the new home market because that'll be where the homes are available. And so there's some interesting dynamics there. On the commercial side, affordability, it should affect cap rates, which we could spend a whole session talking about cap rates, but it should push cap rates up a little bit. But at what time period? How long does it take? There's still a lot of capital in the market. So I would say generally those are the two primary things. The third one that can never leave anyone in the development world's mind is just water. It's a finite resource, and like they say, they're not making any more of it. It does occasionally rain here, but I think that's something that'll never go away, is the conversation around water.
I was going to say your list of concerns mirrors those concerns of ours in the lending industry too. So I feel like we just did my staff meeting again from this morning to review that. So,
Ty, we're refinancing our office building, and we were fortunate enough to lock our interest rate at the end of February, and so we're sub 4%. I think the banker just told one of my partners that if we were to lock the same deal today, it would be almost 5.25. So just since the end of February, I've seen a huge increase. So it's crazy.
Your timing is fantastic. So that's good on you, man. So quick reminder to the group: if anyone has any questions that you'd like to ask Nate, go ahead and enter that in the chat now. And a quick reminder to all of us to throw our stations on mute, please. Nate, could you please share with us your biggest success or point of pride that you've enjoyed as a leader?
Yeah, this one's a really fun question. So, one of the things I'm most proud of, I was on the food bank for Larimer County board for 9 years, and I was fortunate to be able to intersect my career with my philanthropic work. In that I was able to actually help them acquire the former High Country Beverage property out by the air park to expand their warehouse, and just seeing them, their ability to distribute food go from 6 or 7 million pounds up over 10 million pounds, and then their ability to maneuver through the pandemic with all that was going on, and with food and hunger and all those kinds of things. Just one of those things where, we were able to intercept that building, so to speak, before it hit the open market. And High Country was an awesome partner who loved the idea of it ending up in the food bank's hands. And just to be able to put that together and then lead the organization through a $9 million capital campaign was just, super rewarding intersection of philanthropy and professional work that I do, putting deals together. So that by far and away is my biggest point of pride in this business of all the deals I've done.
That's awesome, man. I think you nailed it. Anytime you get that intersection of the work life and then your passion, that's great, man. I'm really glad that you were able to help them with that. And then the last scripted question that I've got here for you. We love our leadership books here in Leadership Northern Colorado. Do you have any favorites, any favorite leadership books, or any other kind of books that have inspired you over time?
Yeah, I would say two that very much relate to one another. So Number one is a book called The Slight Edge. And for those of you that may have read it, it talks about, the simplicity of the compounding effect of little things over time. So both from a positive and negative standpoint. So, for example, eating one cheeseburger, probably not going to make you overweight, but if you ate a cheeseburger every meal or every day over a comparative time, you'd probably start gaining weight, right? So on the flip side of things, save from everything from savings habits to little things like if you're not a reader, it's like, well, if you're not a reader, how do you read books? And it's like, but if you read for 5 or 10 minutes a day, 10 pages a day, 30 days a month is 300 pages. That's a book a month, right? And so the idea is, if you read a book a month, would that change your life? How would that change your life? And so that book did change my life, because I adopted lots of little things. It just said, if I could do this, you talk about how you do this with, so many things in the day. And it's like, well, you do little things compounded over time, they turn into big things. So that one, number one. And number two is a book called High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. I'm not sure if you've heard of that one, but that one really focuses on intentionality and service and connection. I wrote a couple of quotes here just because I love them from the book. It just says, if you leave your growth to randomness, you'll live in the land of mediocrity, right? So it's really about having intentionality about where you're going, why you're going there, defining what is meaningful in your life, and then surrounding yourself with successful and positive people that will help push you in that direction. And then another one is, if you can't discern from your weekly and monthly calendar what major moves you're working towards, and you're not optimizing your time, and you're at risk of getting sucked into a life of reaction and distraction.
Mhm.
I think that's just indicative of the world we live in. It's just like, we're just hit from so many directions, and social media and kid things and business and all these things. And if you don't have any intentionality about how you're going, we almost walk around as zombies, just reacting to the next thing that comes at us. So another book that just really changed my professional life and really led to the idea, we talk a lot about in our business that affluence equals influence. And so we are a for-profit industry. We're here to make money, but with that, we're trying to really focus on, what good can we do in the community? Our tagline is mindfully creating community. So how can we intentionally, mindfully, consciously impact the world in which we live? And so we encourage everybody who works here to get involved with a nonprofit, something that meets your interests, give back. And from that, we meet great business leaders, business owners, people who are, like-minded to us, which in turn may feed the business. You're not doing it for that reason, but you end up with this interesting reciprocal relationship with the greater good. So anyway, that's two just great books that, certainly highly recommend. And I could share a list of others, but those are my two favorites.
High Performance Habits. I'm going to check that out. And I bet that there's some people in this room that either probably just picked their kids up from school or whatever, and they're dealing in that same space that you were just mentioning. So the ability to behave with intent, I think is something that we could all learn from. So Amanda, I'm going to kick it back to you and see if there's anything in the chat box for Nate.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Nate, I do want to ask one question we love to ask our guests every month, and that is, first, before we jump to the chat, to share with us your first job. We love hearing from our guests about their first job. And how old you were.
Like real job or just kind of the first work. So I grew up on a farm. So
you were working
my first paid gig would have been, mowing weeds on the farm for $3 an hour when I was probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old. So that's probably, but my first non-farm real job when I got to college, my first would have been at Bank of Colorado. So I actually started down the financial route, similar to Todd, and went all the way through their management training program, did an internship with the FDIC doing bank exams. Don't recommend that. It's kind of boring, but I learned a lot about the internal workings of the financial system in doing that internship. But part of the reason I left is I really liked the real estate deals. What I liked about the banking world was the deals. And just growing up on a farm, I wanted something just a little more entrepreneurial than a than a traditional work job. So that's, the real estate was a natural extension. I was going to get my real estate license anyway. And so part of when I got my internship here at what it was Loveland Commercial at the time, it was really about just exposing me to the other side of the table and the deal structures and how to put them together, and just kind of fell in love with the entrepreneurial nature of how to put a deal together.
Awesome. Bill Becker had asked in chat if you would tell us a little bit more about your water brokerage business. And Bill, if you've got add-on questions to that, jump off your mute there and you can ask Nathan too.
Yeah, so just the simple answer, Bill, is as we continue to expand our land brokerage, water is a natural extension. And so it's such a complex industry, from raw water to treated water. And it's so diverse from municipality to water district to municipal water district, between all the different communities that it seems to be that there's not a lot of, it's a pretty shallow pool of experts that really understand that. And so, and I won't purport to be an expert in all things water either, because I'm learning every day. But the more that we're around the development world, we can certainly speak to, a lot of the very high level important nuances between water districts and how that ultimately impacts land values, development values, et cetera. So we're hoping to do more of that and become, an even greater trusted advisor in the community with that.
Very good. Thanks.
So we're actually working on a website that'll be a, kind of a clearinghouse, if you will, where people that have water they'd be interested in selling could post post what they have, and people are interested in buying can post what they want and have a bit of a clearinghouse for it, because it's just a really hard market to find information about, find pricing. It's a moving target all the time. So it's an interesting, challenging animal, so to speak.
I suspect that might challenge your facilitation skills, navigating the tensions on all sides of the parties.
It could, but the negotiation fun part as far as I'm concerned. So, the creativity, really comes in the deal structures, and my philosophy from a brokerage perspective is really all about, it has to work for both parties. So one party can never force its will on the other in the real estate world. You'll never get the deal done. So, I typically advise my buyer clients by thinking, encouraging them to think how the seller would. This is how the seller would respond to that. And by the same token, when I'm advising our seller clients, say, well, this is the buyer's perspective, it's a reasonable one or it's not. So I typically like to start with, what's reasonable on both sides, and find that, you actually rarely hit too many tensions. Now, we don't always agree on what something's worth or whatever, but rarely hit those tense moments when you approach the negotiation that way.
So we have a few additional minutes. If anyone else that has joined us has a question for Nathan, or Todd and I can happily keep asking questions. We don't want to limit anyone who may have joined our call today.
Hey, Nate, I did see one question in there from Greg Mezzo, the unverified tallest banker in Northern Colorado. Of the be it retail, office, industrial, or land, which sector of commercial real estate around here you finding to be the most challenging to manage? And that could be either with your brokerage business or managing your own portfolio. Which of those gives you the most heartburn right now?
Greg, is your question, from a physical management standpoint or just market condition management standpoint? They're a little different answer.
Well, in your opinion, I would think market would probably be a little bit better. What do you think is the toughest to manage currently?
Well, I think the land market is the most challenging one to understand, because there's so many inputs that are going into every new development, every new house, every new building that's going up, and partly because of the water environment, some about the fee environment, those kinds of things. I mean, it's just so different. Two properties could be right next to each other and be totally different, and so I think that's probably the hardest to put your arms around. We're kind of unique in that, we've developed, 3,000 residential lots and build 800 houses and 2 King Super shopping centers. We have this really kind of interestingly diverse development background. That's why we're focused there, is we're trying to leverage that experience and offer that to our clients. On the other side of the coin, I think that the office industrial retail is a little more repetitive might not be the right word, but it's a little easier to get your arms around, like kind property to like kind property. So, I think the most difficult portion of the market, just from a market condition standpoint, I would say would be large scale office product, the corporate office environment, just because, a lot of employees went home and never came back. And there's tons of research going on and a lot of uncertainty over when will they come back? Will they come back? What it'll look like when they come back? And so that leaves a lot of uncertainty as to a lot of large, what I call cube farm spaces that might be sitting out there. So I think that's probably the most challenging. The retail market is extraordinarily resilient. In fact, my presentation to Leadership Northern Colorado last week said that, brick and mortar retail sales are actually up and online sales are down. So that's actually an interesting, just to say, Amazon sales were actually down year over year, and, they're coming out saying we got too much space, too many people this week. So that's an interesting kind of change of dynamic, and the industrial world is performing extraordinarily well everywhere, but particularly in Northern Colorado too.
Yeah, that's great answers. Great response. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So we are running into the end of our interview. I want to thank Todd for conducting the interview. Todd is a member of our steering committee with Int Credit Union. And also Nathan, huge thank you to you for not only sharing your day with us today, but being one of our featured favorite presenters year after year with your updates on the development side of part of our land use and infrastructure session. So thank you for your continued support of Leadership Northern Colorado. Again, we want to thank everyone for sharing their day this afternoon with us. We will do a quick screen share. Just again, we want to recognize and thank Elevations Credit Union for supporting Leadership Northern Colorado, and a reminder to join us those second Tuesdays of the month. In June, we'll look forward to welcoming Rochelle, and then in July, we've got Carrie joining us. We will be releasing those Zoom links so you can register for those sessions, but you can also always reach out to me if you need help connecting for these interviews. So a big thank you to Todd, a huge thank you to Nathan for sharing your time and expertise with us, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks,
Thank
Nathan.
you. My pleasure.